Rhya is one of the best PvE attackers in Black Clover Mobile, and then when it comes to PvP, he's actually a really solid option if you have Licked, okay? Outside of having Licked, I don't really recommend running him in the current PvE meta because he is going to struggle against the barriers, which can be kind of insane, okay? So today we're going to talk about how you guys should be building this character, what skills you should be prioritizing, what skill cards you should be putting on him, what gear you should be putting on him, whether or not you should enhance him, what talents you want to run, and then of course, what PvP teams and PvE teams he is going to work best on. So starting with his skill 1, it is called Copy Dark Magic Continuous Slash. If a buff is present on self, performs an extra attack dealing damage equal to 30% of own attack and magic attack on the enemy. You pretty much always have a buff on you, so you're pretty much always going to get that extra attack, so having basically 2 AoE attacks hitting the enemies is really, really good. Granted, the second attack is only 30% of your own attack, but that's still, if your attack is really high, that's pretty dang good, right? And then for skill 2, Copy Dark Magic Wind Slash. This copies 2 of the enemy's buffs, and then only if you have a skill card you get this additional effect, removes 2 buffs from an enemy. So you're basically, if you have your skill card, stealing buffs from an enemy and giving them to yourself, which is insane. And then his special skill, the best skill for PvE, is Copy Dark Magic Dark Cloaked Lightless Slash. What this one does is if 2 or more buffs are active, which you can get just from his skill 2, performs an extra attack on an enemy, just like skill 1. Okay, but this is a single target attack, dealing 70% of attack and magic attack as extra damage. Okay, but then it gets better. Attacks after granting a 15% increased damage dealt buff for each active buff present. So besides the 2 buffs that you steal from your skill 2, if you have buffer mages working alongside him like Sally or William, and you add those buffs to him, he can do massive amounts of damage. Also, mobility buffs and things like that count as buffs as well. So buffs from Voltos, buffs from Finral, those also count as buffs and add to his damage. So he can hit very, very, very hard if you upgrade this skill. So I recommend upgrading his special skill first when it comes to PvE and nuking bosses, right? That's going to help you the most. Then I would recommend leveling up his skill 1 because it is an AoE attack. It has a chance to attack twice and it can do a good amount of damage, even though technically the scaling is lower on this one than skill 2. Being the fact that it is an AoE and you can get an extra attack kind of makes up for it. And then I would go for skill 2 last when it comes to PvE. As for PvP, it's a totally different story. His whole kit relies on his combo skill affiliation with Licked, okay? So if you're doing PvP with Rhya, a PvP build, you are going to want to upgrade your combo skill first. That way you can maximize your damage with Licked. So with the combo attack, he attacks after copying 1 buff of the partnered mage, that mage being Licked. Licked has crit rate or crit, so he'll probably get that. Attacks after granting the partnered mage and self an increased all attack level 2 buff, so he increases their attack by another 40%, which can be insanely good. And then if you're using buffy mages alongside that to buff Rhya's damage, he can hit for very big AoE damage alongside Licked doing his AoE special, and that's how you wipe a whole team in PvP before they ever even get a chance to do anything. So in terms of upgrade priority for PvP, I would probably go with the combo skill first. Then I would go with skill 1 because you're not going to be able to use your special skill right away, and skill 1 is an AoE attack to kind of finish off enemies if you need to. And then I would go with the special skill, and then I would go with skill 2. So those are kind of the 2 different paths you can take for skill priority, just depending on what you're trying to do with Rhya here. And then for his passive, grants 15% of max HP as HP recovery when a buff expires. That's just an additional like cherry on top. So as he's losing the buffs, he'll get a little bit of healing, which is nice, of course. And then for skill cards, what should you be equipping? I do really like his skill card on him because it gives you the ability to remove buffs from the enemy. But then additionally, it grants a 30% increased accuracy buff for 1 turn upon having 3 or more active buffs at the start of a turn. That increased accuracy is really good, and a lot of people don't understand what accuracy does. So basically what that's going to do is make sure that you land all of your damage that you should be landing on the enemy. That makes sure that you are maximizing your damage when you are trying to kill bosses in PvE. So this is like the best PvE option when it comes to skill cards for Rhya. Now, if you're just trying to get even more damage, I would say there are better options for PvP. Okay, and some of those options would be like Breath of Darkness. This is a free-to-play option that everybody gets this card, and it applies a 10 to 20% increase all attack to yourself. This is attack and magic attack, so that is going to make him hit harder. That is a really good option. Another good option that I like is Chief's Appearance, which is Season 1 Asta skill card. It applies a 12 to 24% increased crit damage to yourself. Why would I say this skill card? Well, you're copying a buff in PvP from Licht. It's probably going to be a crit rate buff. And if that's the case, then you're hopefully going to land a crit and you'll want that extra crit damage. So in general, for skill cards, I would run either like crit skill cards or I'd run increased attack skill cards. And those are going to be the best possible like PvP skill cards for Rhya. In terms of PvE though, once again, I really like his skill card for taking on bosses. And then for gear, how should you be gearing this guy? Well, if you look at his stats right here, you'll notice that his attack is a lot higher than his magic attack. He is an attack character. Generally, any character that like gets up close and personal is an attack character, even if they have magic attack. Magic attack characters are typically characters that fight more at range, okay? So if we look at his gear, that means I have attack gear for every piece of gear on him to maximize his overall attack. You can see I am adding 18,000 attack overall. And then as far as substats go, you are going to be able to reroll substats, and you want to aim for attack substats on this character / like crit substats, crit rate specifically. So this piece of gear is actually pretty good. The biggest problem I have with it is that the attack substat right here is not a percentage. Percentages are always better than a flat boost because they will they take your base amount of attack and add a certain percentage of it, whatever the percentage says, whereas this just adds 101 attack, which is like, it's not as good, okay? So ideally for substats, you have them in percentages. That is going to maximize your damage. And then last but not least, for the gear, you have different sets that you can run, okay? So right here, I have an attack set. This is a normal attack set. I have 2 pieces of attack gear on him to get this bonus of plus 220 damage. Now, there are things called gold attack sets. So if we go into sets here, and we look, you can see all the different sets. This is attack, this is defense, HP, so on and so forth. And then if you look over here, we have the same things, but they have gold stars on them. These are called gold attack sets, okay? So you saw this attack set before when I just showed you, it gave you a flat boost to attack. However, a gold attack set is much better because it gives you a percentage boost. Percentage boosts are always going to be better, right? So you want to, if you can, I would recommend running an attack set and then also a gold attack set on Rhya, as well as like a mobility set, something that's going to give him extra speed at the start of a battle. That way you are more likely to get the first turn in PvP. Another option, if you're aiming for like the PvE route, I would still go for 2 attack sets, but then you could go for like either penetration or crit. In my case, I have attack, crit, and penetration. I do need to probably switch one of these out for an attack set, a gold attack set later on, which I will if I ever get, the pieces that I need to do that. So that's kind of how I would gear this character. And then in terms of enhancing, should you guys be enhancing him or not? Well, let's look at his different levels. So at level 2, it grants a 2.5% increased attack when the buff expires. Stacks up to 3 times. That is permanent. So that's a pretty good amount of extra attack. But then when you enhance him to level 5, you get a 5% increased attack when the buff expires, and that still only stacks up to 3 times, but that is a 15% boost of extra damage. That can help you take out bosses a little bit easier, but if you ask me, I would say it's not necessary because we do have so many characters that can buff Rhya and add buffs to him that you don't need that extra 15% because you can literally get that extra 15% by just adding an extra buff to him. So in terms of enhancing him, not necessary. I feel like just having a copy of the character is enough. So don't waste your versatile mage pieces on enhancing him. If you do pull dupes, it's worth putting the dupes into him. Don't sell them. But yeah, don't go out of your way to try and enhance this character. He's good as is, and he will be good for a long time to come. And then in terms of talents, the talents you're going to want for attack are attack plus 7% and damage dealt plus 5%. Those are literally the best talents for Rhya because it's going to make him do the most amount of damage. Defense, I say this for pretty much every single character just because it's true. Like there's the defense talent tree side it's so goofy, there's stuff that really isn't that great. The best things here are going to be defense plus 20% and grants defense plus 4% and crit resist plus 2%. The only other time you would want to run max HP is on someone like Charmy who heals based on her HP, right? That would help her, but that's not going to help someone like Rhya here. So defense is king when it comes to the defense side of the talent tree. And then for the support side of the talent tree, I would actually run swiftness here. You end up running this on a lot of characters, but it's just really that good. Grants a SP +1 buff upon having less than 2 SPs at the start of a turn. So if you need to use your special skill more than once in PvE to nuke a boss, i.e. the Hall of Illusion stage 85, this will help you out with that. And then of course, besides that, you want to run damage resist just to give him a little bit more survivability, and that could help him in both PvE and PvP. So those are the talents I would run for Rhya. Now let's talk about the potential teams you could put him on. So starting with the PvP team. I really like the idea of this team because Valto speeds up. Vengeance is faster than both Licht and Rhya, so he'll get to go before them. And what Vengeance can do is with his skill 2 here, he can grant an ally increased attack level 4. That will increase Rhya's attack by 84% for when he does his combo AoE. It also gives him all these other buffs, which are really nice, and status ailment immunity. So running William is very, very nice to do with the Licht and Rhya combo. Another option you can run besides William would be like Sally. However, you're going to want to use Sally's special skill as opposed to her secondary skill because it increases all attack by level 3. It's not as good of an increase, it's only 50%, but then it also gives it to Licht, okay? So it kind of balances out. And then on her skill 2, I wouldn't use this on Rhya because it only increases magic attack, which won't help him, but you could use it on Licht potentially and still like kind of get the same result. So this is a really solid option for trying to get past the barrier meta if you're faster than the enemy team. Now, if the enemy team has a Valtos, you're kind of playing a risky game on whether they'll be faster than you or not. And if they get those barriers up, yeah, you're just going to be kind of sitting there and staring at them and just waiting for your demise. So keep that in mind with this team. And then for the PvE team, I really do like this as well. I like running supporters with Rhya. That's just kind of the way the character works, right? So you buff the crap out of Rhya with these two. You do debuffs on the enemy defense down, and then when you use your combo skill with Nebra, which is Incapacitate, it will lower the enemy's defense and allow Rhya to hit hard as well. So this is a very solid PvE team that will allow Rhya to nuke to his fullest potential in multiple stages. Anyways, guys, that is it for the video. Hopefully this helped you guys out, and if you guys did enjoy the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.
Can anybody out there